Growing up in Arizona, you experience a rich mix of cultures. People come here from the Midwest, some people brave the desert and come from the South, and some people have been here since before this place was a state. Some say this is because Arizona has no real culture of our own, and that we borrow from everywhere else. This state is rich in the paranormal. Many Native American tales tell of demons in White River, skinwalkers, vampires, tribes of little people who take children in the night, wendigos up north, or the always popular Thunderbird. This isn't a story about all that. This is the retelling of my experience with the Lady in Black. Growing up, I would hear stories from my friends who were of Mexican background of La Llorona, or the Lady in Black. The story is meant to keep children inside after dark, and to keep them from sneaking out at night. These legends of the lady came north with the people, and it seems that she came along too. The story goes something like this. There once was a beautiful lady in Old Mexico. She was not from a rich family. Nevertheless, she caught the attention of the son of a Mexican nobleman. They fell in love, and in secret they got married. Not long after that, she became pregnant with twins. Like all ghost stories, this one ends tragically. The nobleman's son was found out. The father was so enraged that his bloodline was tainted with the blood of a commoner that he tried to force the local bishop to grant a divorce to dissolution the marriage. Mexico was very Catholic in those days, and the bishop refused. The father eventually seemed to cave in, and he allowed her to move into the house. She eventually gave birth to twins, one boy and one girl. A year later, the son of the nobleman was called off to war. He didn't return. The father became reclusive, hardly talking or eating. He grew to hate the children that would now inherit everything, and viewed their mother as a commoner marrying into his family and waiting for him to die to take everything. He ordered his men to take the children to the nearest river and drown them, and let their bodies be taken by the current at night so there would be no proof. The children were taken in the middle of the night without a sound. The mother was kicked out of the house the next day, and later was accused of killing her children. The townsfolk eventually drowned the heartbroken woman. She didn't put up a fight, as she had already died inside. Days later, the nobleman and his men were found dead in his house. Sightings started happening of a beautiful woman dressed in black roaming the streets at night, crying and looking for her children. If you saw her, and you were a child, she would stop crying, grab you, and take you to the river where you would be drowned. I told you that story to tell you this one. I was out running about a month ago, as I often do. I run late at night, around 10 or so. I run near the canals that are all over Phoenix. I take my American Bulldog with me so that no one messes with me. The path I take when I go running is very well lit, and it's right next to the canals and some houses. I always felt safe running that path, until the night I saw her. I was running with my dog as usual, listening to my iPod and tracking my mileage. I began to see something in the distance about a quarter-mile away. It looked like a person under one of the street lamps that light the path at night. I thought nothing of it at first because I often see people when I run. As I got closer, I began to notice that this person wasn't moving, just a silhouette under the light. The closer I got, the more the silhouette started to take shape. When I was about 50 feet away from it, I stopped. My first thought was that it was a homeless person, or this was some sort of prank. My dog started to whimper, then growl, then whimper, then growl again. I had never seen him do that before. I looked at the person, and at this point, I could tell it was a woman. There was something about her that deeply unsettled me. Then I got a feeling in my stomach that something wasn't quite right, and that I needed to get out of there. I couldn't see her face, as her long black hair was covering it. She looked like she was wearing a short black dress, which was odd because it was 60 degrees that night. She was tall, taller than I had first estimated. She was thin, and her arms and legs seemed to be a tad too long for her body. She was just standing there, under the streetlight. I took my headphones out because I was going to ask if she was okay. Before I could, my ears were filled with very fast Spanish being spoken in a whisper. It was raspy, and the voice filled my head. She raised one long arm at me and extended her index finger. It looked more like a long tree root than a finger. I had had enough at this point, and my dog sensed my fear. I took a step back, and she took a step forward. I paused for what seemed like a solid minute, but it was probably only a few seconds. That's when I started to hear the crying. It started off as a wail, then grew into a full scream. I turned tail and ran as fast as I could to a main road. When I looked back, she was gone. I ran back to my neighborhood along the main road. The entire time, I was trying to make sense of what had just happened and whether or not someone was screwing with me. The entire run home, I could feel eyes on me. I entered my neighborhood, and the feeling was still there. I was dreading running back to my house because I live in an area that isn't very well lit. I decided to sprint the last 0.2 miles. As I was doing this, I happened to look down a cul-de-sac that had one light at the end of it. And there she was. Her silhouette as clear as day. She had not only followed me and kept pace with me, but she had also beaten me to my neighborhood. My dog pulled. We made it to my front doorstep, and I opened the door, ran in, and slammed it shut. I took a shower and tried to forget about everything. I locked every door in the house and the door to my bedroom. My dog slept at the foot of my bed that night, and I left the TV on. I drifted to sleep around 3 a.m. The next morning, I woke up and discovered that I had somehow acquired a large scratch that ran down the whole of my bicep. It would eventually scar. A few days after that, I was talking with my neighbor, as I often do. I told him about what happened, and he said this in response. "I know what that was. The best advice I can give you is to leave her alone. She marked you, and will leave you alone. She marks the ones she doesn't like, and takes the ones she does." He told me something similar had happened to the person who lived down the street from us. It ended up driving him crazy. He said that it all started with a picture his niece drew him. He wouldn't say any more than that. He kept telling me to leave it be. But I couldn't just let this go. How could I? I had been followed by something and was marked. This kind of thing doesn't just happen to people. I called my friend Justin after that. His family is Mexican, and he also loves this sort of thing. I described what happened and asked if it was La Llorona, the lady from the story. He told me that it was possible, as there were many vengeful spirits like this. He told me the same story I wrote about above, except with a few key differences. The lady was never pregnant, but she was beautiful. She fell in love with a nobleman's son who played with her heart, promising to marry her, but instead married another woman. The woman, heartbroken, became depressed, and she began to see her beauty as a curse. She took a knife and disfigured her face. He told me that no one saw her face from then on because she would cover her face with her long black hair. When he told me this, I thought back to my encounter, and my blood turned to ice. The legend finishes that she longed for someone to love her for her heart and not her beauty. This didn't happen, and she eventually drowned herself. Her spirit was cursed, though, and now wanders, looking for someone who will love her. She will never be satisfied. Her hatred has twisted her. Some people she appears to as a monster. Some she appears to as a beautiful woman. Those she appears to as a beautiful woman will be driven mad with affection for her. Those are the ones she's chosen to love her. Those are the ones who can see her for her and don't see her as a monster. I got off lucky, I guess. This should have been the end of it. This should be where the story ends, but it doesn't. I became so curious that I went to my neighbors who lived down the street. I had to know what became of the other man who saw her. When I knocked, an old woman answered. I told her that this would sound weird, but that I needed her help. I asked her about the man who used to live here, and it turns out it was her ex-husband. I cautiously asked her if she knew anything about a woman in black. She looked at me in a funny way and asked me if I had seen her. I told her I had. She gave me the same advice my neighbor had given me, to leave this alone. I told her that was no longer an option. She sighed and told me to come with her. We went into her attic, and she gave me 2 large boxes. She said that everything I wanted to know was in there. This was apparently all that her ex-husband had left in his apartment when he disappeared. She told me to read everything, and that if I still wanted to look for her after that, then I was a fool. I took the boxes home and spent a weekend going through everything. There were journals, home movies, drawings, and other things I'm still not sure about. The thing that unnerved me the most was a drawing that looked like it had been done by a child. It was all black, of a tall, thin figure with long hair, long arms, and fingers that looked like roots. My stomach turned uneasily. I matched the drawing to one of the first journal entries. This is what it said. September 17th, 2004. I can't shake the feeling that I'm being followed. I went on a walk last night to see if I could find her. It seems she's found me. My niece, Macy, drew me a picture today. She's been staying with us while my brother and his wife were in Denver. She handed me the picture and told me that the lady who lives under the stairs told her to draw it and to tell me she wasn't coming back. I have to see her again. This crazy guy seemed to be in love with this woman. He was obsessed with her. I'll include a few more journal entries. Most of the entries are bogus. It seems he kept them to document what was going on, to show that he wasn't going crazy. Most of the entries are just him babbling on about trying to find her. October 5th, 2004. I'm no longer in love with my wife. Llorona, as I have come to call her, has my heart. I saw her face. She showed me her face. She's beautiful. I have to be with her. I understand her. She's not a monster. She's a beautiful woman. October 7th, 2004. She visited me in my dream last night. I never wanted to wake up. She spoke to me in a voice sweeter than honeysuckle. I've decided to leave my wife. December 13th, 2004. The new apartment isn't grand or glorious, but it's ours. She comes to me at night, telling me that we will soon be together. I'm going to start recording our encounters to show everyone I'm not crazy. This is love. This is pure. I'm happy, and she loves me. This is where things get really weird. He started taping himself with a video camera. I watched most of it. He kept the lights mostly off. He said she likes the darkness better. He only had on 1 or 2 lights at a time. From the looks of his new home, he was living in a cheap apartment. One video in particular was set up in a bathroom. He had grown a beard by this point. In the video, he took out a razor, and instead of shaving with it, he removed the blade and started cutting his face with it. He took blood from his face and drew a heart on the mirror. He looked over his shoulder into the darkness and said, "I love you too." Then the whispering started. The camera cut off. The last tape was the weirdest by far. It starts off with him sitting down at his dining table, which was a fold-down card table. He had a large smile on his face. That's all the tape showed for 3 minutes, just him sitting and smiling in the dark. His eyes seemed to follow something around the room. He nodded occasionally. The lights above the table eventually went out, at which point the camera turned to night vision. He was still smiling. Then a shadow appeared behind him. Long, root-like fingers found their way down his chest until her palm found its place on his shoulder. He closed his eyes, and his smile widened. The last part of this video made my head hurt and my stomach lurch. I heard a voice say on the video, "Mi amor," before the camera shut off. They never found his body. That night, I packed his stuff up, and the next morning, I returned his things to his ex-wife. I have since stopped looking for her, but I sometimes wonder if she ever thinks about me. What's up, everybody? Lone Wolf here. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to tonight's video. In case anyone is interested, all of the various elements used in this video, including pictures, music, sound effects, and stories, will be linked in the description below. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, click the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new video. If anybody has any personal stories or story recommendations for me, or any advice to help improve the channel, there will be links to all of my social media platforms in the description. I'm mostly active on Twitter and on Instagram, but I also have an email, a Discord server, and a TikTok account that you can message me on as well. Until next time, stay spooky. And remember,
the hunt begins when the moon is full.